Hello, everyone. Welcome back. If this is your first time with us, welcome. We're excited you're all here for today for another episode of Cooking Connected. My name is Jordan. Joining me today is one of our SNAP educators, Dion.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here with all of you and have a little spooky theme to our Cooking Connected today.
It's going to be a really fun Cooking Connected class. So as we all know, Cooking Matters is a collaboration between Share Our Strengths Cooking Matters program, as well as the University of Minnesota Extension. Cooking Matters classes are either in-person or online classes that meet once a week for 2 hours for a total of 6 weeks. Classes feature a nutrition educator and a chef that work together to teach our participants how to make healthy, delicious, affordable meals. As always, we're going to try to follow that same format. Dion's going to be our chef and I will be our nutrition educator. And today we're going to be making, as Dion was saying, some spooky themed snacks, some healthy Halloween themed snacks. We'd like to thank the creators of today's recipes, Debbie Chapman, Fork and Beans, and then Erin with TexanErin.com. If you'd like to see the recipes, we do have them in the live chat as well as in the description box of our videos. So just like every week, we do have another survey for you all to take. We love hearing from our viewers, so please don't forget to take that survey. Again, the link for the survey as well as the program code is located in both the live chat as well as the description box of our videos. So make sure you check that out after this video and give us some feedback, which we greatly appreciate. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Dion has some awesome recipes to show us today, and she is spooky themed on her side. We're so excited to have her. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Dion.
Thank you, Jordan. Yes, I am excited to share some healthy Halloween or spooky themed snacks today. A lot of times we think of a lot of sweets around the Halloween holiday. And of course, there are plenty of fun sweet snacks we can have, but it's good to have some healthy options as well. So we have 3 different recipes, like Jordan mentioned. I'm making some adaptations to each of the recipes, and that's one great thing about these particular ones. There's a lot of different ways that you can alter them based on you and your family's preferences. So the first one we're going to start is making an apple monster. So before we start cooking, I have already washed my hands. Make sure we wash our hands for 20 seconds, really scrub beneath your nails and everything like that. And then I've also already washed all of my produce for today. So that's something you want to make sure you do ahead of time as well. So I already have cored this apple. I chose a green apple for this recipe because it's a monster, but you can certainly use a red apple as well. So your first step is going to be to core the apple. If you don't have a core, you can just cut around the core too. And then we're going to quarter the apple. So I'm just going to cut it in half. And I'm going to cut it in half again. And I'm just going to make 1 quarter of this apple, but if you were going to make several of these snacks, you could use the rest of the apple. All right, so we've got our little apple. We're going to actually cut out of this side with the peel because we want that green color for our monster's face. I'm going to use a butter knife for this next part. It is a little bit of a tricky cut to make, so just use something that's not going to be too sharp. You don't want to injure yourself. So I'm going to try to cut out, I'm cutting out the mouth part, and I'll kind of hold it up to show you what I'm doing. So I've cut 1 line that runs along the same line as the apple edge there, and I'm going to cut another one on the top and try to kind of round it out. You don't have to be exact about this, but basically you're trying to make a little opening in the mouth, we're going to call it, of this apple monster. So this part, well, you can set aside. You can certainly just eat that part. And then we're going to use some peanut butter to be kind of like the gums of the monster, and it's going to help us stick some of the other ingredients. If your family can't do peanuts, you can use any kind of other nut butter or seed butter. So I'm going to smear some peanut butter inside this mouth, and I'm still using this butter knife. So this is actually a great recipe that kids can help out with too.
Absolutely. Decorating those monster mouths would be a lot of fun, a really fun activity for the kids. If you've got a Halloween party coming up, this would be a great little appetizer.
For sure. Everybody can make the monster the way they want to. You could have additional ingredients. So I've filled the center of the mouth, and I guess I got a little bit down there. And then I'm also going to put a couple globs of peanut butter up at the top. And that is going to help glue on our eyes. Now, a lot of recipes for these apple monsters call for candy eyes, but then you're just adding candy to what would otherwise be a healthy snack. So I'm going to use blueberries instead. You could use grapes, lychees, if you're familiar with those, have a particularly eyeball-like look to them. So there's lots of options. But you do want to try to pick out two of the fruit that are relatively similar size. Well, I guess you could have different sized eyes on your monster. That'd be fine too. So I'm going to pick out two and I'm going to glue those up on top. All right, it's got the beginnings of a face here. And then I'm going to use sunflower seeds to make some teeth for my monster. So I'm going to take the blunt end of the sunflower seed and stick that up to the peanut butter on the roof of the mouth. You could also use something like slivered almonds.
I love this recipe because it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, we are making monsters today. So if you happen to glob some peanut butter on the lips, it just makes it look a little spookier. So it doesn't have to be perfect.
I also, when I was looking this up, saw some people will use like jelly to make it look like there's blood in the mouth. So if you really want to go spooky, you can do that. So this is the little monster. You could put like a little strawberry slice as a tongue. You could, like I said, put the jelly. There's lots of ways to adapt this monster, but here's the basics right there.
Yes, we have some viewers also saying, so cute, I mean scary.
Yes, it's bridging the gap right there. So I'm going to put this little guy aside. We're going to move on to our next recipe. Just go through them all quick here.
Absolutely. As Jen was saying, a lot of times Halloween's associated with candy, but this is a really great way to still be healthy, but have some fun snacks. Remember, we're always eating with our eyes as well. So if something looks pretty, you're more willing to want to eat it. So this is definitely a fun way to do that.
For sure. Our next one is some cheese and pretzel broomsticks. This one is fun. It goes together pretty easily. It's another great one that kids can help with. And I just made these for some friends the other day and they were a big hit. So we're going to start with just a plain mozzarella cheese stick. And I'm going to cut it in thirds. Again, you can just use a butter knife for this. This is going to cut pretty easily and that way you can do it with young hands. So I've cut my cheese stick into thirds. And then we'll set two of them aside. I need to cut some fringes for the broom. So what I'm going to do is kind of stand my cheese stick upright. I'm going to grasp it on either side and cut it in half. But I'm not going to go all the way through to the bottom of the stick because we're thinking about a broom. It's just got fringes at the bottom. So you can kind of see here, it almost looks like it's got little legs. It's cut through part of the way, but not all the way. I'm going to do the same and cut it in half again. So we have quarters. Got little quarters now. You could stop here, but I think it looks fun to have some additional fringes. But it does get trickier at this point. The cheese stick is going to want to start splitting on you. So I'm going to rest it on the ground and try to cut some more fringes in between the cuts that I've already made. Like that. So you can see now I've got lots of little fringes. The lighting just got bad for some reason, but it's got little fringes right here. So now I can kind of stand that up. And then I'm going to choose a pretzel stick here. I'm just going to stick that through the top of the end that we didn't cut through. So now you can see it's got a little bit of a broom shape, and you could just leave it like that. But a fun addition is to add a chive. So chives are an herb that can add a lot of flavor to this otherwise really simple snack. So I'm going to take my chive and I'm going to wrap it around the top of the broom. It's going to add a little bit of dimension right there. Kind of wrap it around and then tuck in the end. Depending on your chive, you might have a little bit of difficulty. Sometimes they like to bust on you, but that's okay. Can be a dingy witch's broom. All right, so there we go. It's a little witch's broom, and you can you can get 3 of them per cheese stick. So that can be a fun one that kind of goes a long way. And it's really fun and easy to eat because it's already got a handle.
Making these Halloween snacks convenient, which is really nice.
Yes.
Lots of cute snacks. I don't know how many of you have, if you're into carving pumpkins. My family has not done that yet. That might be something we do, but this would be something really fun. If you're doing Halloween themed activities, you can make some snacks together, and then you can carve pumpkins together. Maybe even do something with those pumpkin seeds, roasting those instead of tossing them is always kind of a fun thing to do as well.
Yeah, there's so many great seasonal foods available this time of year. So like Jordan said, the pumpkin, squash, the apple like we use, that's another great reason to make an apple monster. Lots of apples in season. So those are fun foods. I'm going to make one more of these little brooms.
So a lot of these are not only fun, but they're also really reasonable snacks. So as Deanna's saying, apples are in season right now. So a lot of times we'll be talking about some grocery store tips today, actually, how to pick out fruits and vegetables that are in season. But a lot of times the in-season produce is going to be right up front. And right now you're probably noticing in the store in the produce section, your apples are right up front and center. So go ahead and pick up some apples and make some apple monsters. I'm sure there's lots of other fun Halloween recipes that you can make. If you have any ideas, we'd love to hear them. So if you have any Halloween themed snacks that you like to make, feel free to throw it in the chat or comment. We'd love to see your Halloween themed snacks that you like to make. I just want to point out Dion's decor she's got going on. Love it. Love the costume too.
Love that. I like to dress up and get into the holiday spirit.
That's fun.
All right, we have one more recipe, and this one is a little bit more involved than the other two, but is a pretty fun one. If you're throwing a Halloween party, this can be a great one because it's a little bit more substantial as well. And this is a bat walk. So I'm going to get my different ingredients here. We're going to first make a really simple guacamole, and there are lots of different ways that you can make guacamole, and depending on what you want to add to it. But I'm just going to start with some very basics here. Had another avocado. Where the heck did it go? Oh, I lost some veggies. Hang on. My onion and my other avocado. They're rolling.
As Dion said, that all of her produce is already rinsed. So please don't forget to rinse your produce before you start making your guacamole today.
Yes. Yes. Very important. So I already started mashing one of the avocados, but I'm going to use 2 avocados for this recipe. Got my other avocado here. I'm gonna cut through, just cut it in half. Be very aware that there is that giant pit in there. So I'm gonna cut, but I'm not really cutting all the way through the guacamole. I'm gonna kind of turn it around, cut. Oh, I just lost my cut here. Cut through the other side. Then I can peel it open. Got that pit in there. I'm going to use my knife to help me get it out. Maybe this particular knife isn't very strong.
Absolutely. Another way to get the pit out of an avocado, you can always push on the back where the skin is at. Sometimes they'll pop out, sometimes they won't. Just always be careful when you're trying to use that knife to get out of there. As you saw, Dion was holding both sides, so she wasn't able to cut herself. Some people can get cut pretty bad when they accidentally miss the avocado, so please just be careful.
Yes. Very good tip right there. So
experience.
Yikes. I'm just going to use a spoon to scoop out the rest of my avocado here. I was lucky to get perfectly ripe avocados. Not always the case. And there are a lot of different ways you can mash the avocado, but I've found that one easy way is to just use, again, a butter knife, guess they're the theme of the day, and just cut it into little pieces. Works well if you've got a very ripe avocado. And avocados like this do have a tendency to turn brown, but for this recipe, we're making little bats, so it almost works if your avocado oxidizes.
Absolutely. When you're picking avocados out in the store, a lot of people, you can squeeze them a little bit to see if they're ripe, or sometimes you can take off the end pit to see if they're overripe or underripe. A few different ways to pick out your avocado in the store.
All right, so I've got the avocado mashed. I'm going to use a tomato. This is one from my garden, and you can see it has a little bit of a bad spot in it, so I am going to cut around that. Aroma tomato or a paste type tomato is really good for this recipe because it's not going to have so much juice like a slicing tomato would have. All right, so I have those kind of goofy pieces I'm going to put aside where I cut around the bad spot. And for the main tomato, I'm going to first cut it in half. And then I'm going to cut it into strips. See, I'm kind of gripping the tomato on either side so it hopefully doesn't roll away from me here. And then I'm going to dice these tomato strips.
Dion brings up such a great point. Her tomato did have a bad spot on it, but just because produce isn't perfect doesn't mean that it's no good. So that's always a good thing to remember. Like when you go to farmers markets, sometimes they have produce that looks, it looks imperfect. And a lot of times that'll taste just fine. It just looks a little different. So it's always a good idea to remember that you can still use that type of produce.
For sure, especially as we get to the end of the year, produce starts getting a little weird looking, but it's still perfectly good. So I'm going to put this tomato in my bowl with the avocado. I'm going to come back to these weird looking pieces and kind of chop them up too.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking, if you grew a garden this year and you happen to have carrots that have the 2 legs, that might be a good opportunity to use it.
Ooh, definitely.
Those are always my favorite.
Also seen a lot of cute like pepper faces. You can carve a pepper like you would a jack-o'-lantern and then stuff it with something. All right, so we've got our tomato in there. The next thing we're going to do is an onion. We really only need about 1/4 of an onion for how much we have. And I chose a red onion because it's just going to have a little bit more mild flavor since we're going to be eating it raw. So I haven't peeled my onion yet, but I'm going to cut it in half first. My knife is, I need to get my knife sharpened. All right. I'm going to cut it in half. That's going to make it a little bit easier to peel. And I did already wash this onion.
Another food food waste thing. That's kind of been our theme today. Those scraps that Dion has there, you can also use those for veggie broth. We like to talk about that a lot on Cooking Connected, saving onion skins and garlic skins for making veggie broth. All you have to do is take those and throw them in like a bag and throw them in the freezer. When the bag is full, you can go ahead and make broth out of them. Lots of different recipes online. Just go ahead and look those up. And we actually have a video on how to make veggie broth on our YouTube channel as well.
Yes, I love to do that. So you can see I put aside the rest of the onion and I'm just using 1/4 of it. I cut lines kind of following the lines that were on the onion. And I'm not cutting all the way to the root of the onion. I want to leave that on there so my onion doesn't fall apart on me when I'm trying to cut it. If you love onion, go ahead and put in more than that 1/4 of an onion, however much you like in there. All right, and then I'm going to just cut straight perpendicular to those lines that I already cut. I'm kind of using the claw. I'm sure we've talked about this before. I'm kind of gripping it so that my knife is just going to hit along the my knuckles rather than my fingertips. All right, got my onion. I'll put that in my guacamole bowl. Another ingredient that is typically in guacamole, but I'm not using today, is a jalapeno. If your family doesn't like spice, you can certainly leave it out like I am doing now. Sometimes kids especially don't like that spice, but guacamole is really best with a jalapeno if you do like the spice. Another somewhat controversial ingredient I'm going to put in is cilantro. I've just got a small bunch of it here, about maybe 1/4 of a cup. And some people really don't like cilantro, but if you do, it's a great ingredient. And we can use the stems of cilantro in addition to the leaves. They have a lot of good flavor as well. So I'm just going to roughly chop this, stems and all.
Cilantro is a great way to flavor your food without adding things like salt. We may add a little bit of salt, some guacamole does, but adding that cilantro adds a whole different flavor. So it's a great way to add more herbs into your cilantro to make it make those flavors pop. You'll see Dion's using kind of a mincing technique there. So just using her forefingers on the top and then just kind of rocking her knife through there. Good way to kind of rough chop that cilantro. We're starting to get a full bowl here, but we are going to finally add some lime juice as well. So you can use a freshly squeezed lime here, like I have. You can also use bottled lime juice if that works better for you. I was kind of massaging my lime around, and doing that or kind of rolling it helps to release the juices from the cell walls of the lime. So by doing some kind of manipulation, I guess, on your lime, you can get some more juice out of it. Cut my lime in half. And then really the lime juice in this recipe is to taste. So you can put in as much or as little as you want. I don't remember how much the recipe even calls for, but I'm going to put in half of this lime and then I'll see what I think from there. When you're doing this, be careful that you don't get any seeds in your guacamole. That would be a disappointment. All right, I'm going to mix it around. Looking good. It's smelling really good. That lime adds a lot of good aroma. If you really want to make
the bat look as, I guess, bat-like as possible, you could certainly dice the pieces smaller so they're not as visible. But I like mine bigger chunks.
Of course, if you're short on time, you can buy pre-made guacamole, but of course you are paying for somebody else to do that work. And a lot of times it might not be, it might have more salt in it or more additives or things like that. So just some things to keep in mind, that fresh guacamole is going to be phenomenal.
Yes, for sure. And then you can, I've got a little salt here. I can add a little pinch of salt. It's not necessarily a requirement. And we're going to be eating it with chips that do have some salt. So I would caution against adding a whole lot of salt to it. Traditional guacamole doesn't have garlic in it, but if you love garlic, that could be another fun ingredient to add. You can really adapt it to however you like. So now I'm going to move this stuff out of the way and I'm going to bring my plate over so we can assemble the bat. I didn't put enough peanut butter on my apple monster. Its eyes fell off. Okay. So we've got these two, and let's make the bat. So what we're going to do is use the spoon. If you've got like an ice cream scoop, that could be a really good tool, but I'm just going to use this spoon to make a nice ball of the guacamole. I'll try to sculpt that on there. And then I've got some blue corn tortilla chips. You could certainly do it with a yellow corn or white corn tortilla chip, but it looks the best as a bat if you use blue. And I've picked through the bag of tortilla chips to try to find ones that looked whole rather than pieces of chips. So I'm going to take two of these triangle chips and stick them in to be the bat's wings. All right. And then I'm going to break off some corners of some other ones. And these will be the little bat ears. So I'll break off two little corners. Oops. Try to make them the same size, but again, doesn't have to be perfect. All right. And then I've got some sliced black olives here that are going to be the eyes. So I'm going to, oops, that one's kind of goofball. Let's see. Again, you can try to pick through and find ones that are the same size. Hold up,
that is so cute.
There's a little bat guac.
So
there you go.
They are so cute. And I mean, they're all healthy as well. So that's just an extra bonus. They're just so cute. Well, thank you so much, Jan. Those are amazing.
They are really fun.
Absolutely. Again, if you have any type of Halloween snacks that your family likes to make, we'd love to hear your ideas. Just go ahead and throw them in the chat or comment below. We'd love to hear your snack ideas. So before we leave today, I did just want to throw in some nutrition education as always. We're going to be just discussing a little bit some grocery store shopping techniques, some ways that can help you at the store pick out maybe some healthy snacks or some healthier items and just some things to keep an eye out for. So the first thing I wanted to talk about first was our fresh produce section. So that's the section usually right when you walk into the store. The produce section is usually right there, right up front. And of course, a lot of our fresh produce, as we were talking about, if it's right up front, right front and center, a lot of times that's the stuff that's in season. In season foods tends to be a little bit cheaper. So right now, apples are very much in season. So you're going to see those right front and center, and they tend to be a little bit more reasonable. So great way to make these apple monsters. Something else I want to mention, as we've kind of already talked about, is prepackaged foods or convenience foods. So a lot of times you'll see a section in the produce section that has cut up watermelon and cut up fruits already. There's things that are already prepackaged. Our prepackaged guacamole is another great example. These are things that obviously you don't have to do any type of work on or less work on, so they're going to be more expensive. Next time you go to the grocery store, I encourage you to look at the price difference between the cut up watermelon and a whole watermelon. A lot of times the price per ounce is crazy different, where it'll be $1 for the already cut up and like 46 cents per ounce or something like that for the watermelon. So always something to keep an eye out for, and always a good reminder. Next, moving on to our canned produce section. A lot of times, though, that'll be right in the middle. So for our canned produce, it's always a good idea to think about, for the items that maybe aren't in season on your list, canned options are still great options to incorporate in your diet. Some ways that you can kind of reduce maybe the salt content is to look at items that have low sodium. A lot of times they'll say on the front, no salt added, or things like that. That's always a great option to look for when you're looking in the canned fruit or vegetable section. For canned fruits, you might want to look for items that are canned in 100% juice, as opposed to like a heavy syrup or a light syrup. Those are going to have a lot less sugar on them. But if the sale's going on and the canned full sodium is on there, you can always wash that or rinse that produce. So something to keep in mind, just go ahead and rinse those green beans and to remove some of that salt. Something else in that section I always like to mention too is beans and lentils. Beans and lentils are a really great source of protein, and they're often really reasonable. They do come in cans and a lot of times dried options as well. Dried options that come in the bag are very reasonable and you get a lot of product, but they do require a little bit more work. A lot of times some beans will have to soak overnight. So something to keep in mind if you like using dried beans. And the last section we'll talk about today is the juice section. So a lot of our kiddos like juice. So something I always like to mention is to look for juices that are labeled 100% juice, or because, you know, there's going to be a lot less added sugar. So if you turn that juice around, there will be two sections on your nutrition facts. Usually there'll be a sugar content and then an included sugars. So the included sugars are sugars that they added into that juice. A lot of times when it's 100% juice, they add a lot less sugar, maybe even none. So if it's 100% juice, a lot of times there will be a lot less sugar content. Really great idea for the kiddos is to just water down that juice just a little bit. You can use like a half a cup or even a 3/4 a cup of juice and just pour a little water in it to kind of dilute it a little bit for a little less sugar content for your kiddos. In future Cooking Connected, we'll talk about the other sections of the store and some tips and tricks that you can use in your grocery sections of the store. So with that, I would like to thank Dion. Thank you so much for these awesome Halloween snack ideas. I love them. They're so cute.
Thanks for having me.
We're so excited
Halloween,
to have you.
everyone.
So with that, we'll go ahead and let you all go. Just a reminder, please don't forget to take our survey. Again, that is in the live chat as well as the description box. You will need that program code, which is also located in the same place. So please don't forget to take that survey. We greatly appreciate any feedback. And also, we hope to see you again next week, same time, same place. Next Thursday at 2 p.m., we'll be making another healthy, delicious, affordable meal. So with that, we'll go ahead and let you go. Have a great holiday and enjoy your week. Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.